Hey everybody, I just wanted to do a quick update today. I still have a showcase video on my Musty Oldhammer challenge, Musty Wargamers Oldhammer challenge, because I've finished my work for that. But I wanted to just mix things up today since I've been doing a lot of that particular project in a row, and really just kick off a new project and talk about news within Saga and just various things Saga. So today's a bit of a Saga update. It's an update on my Scots project that I'm doing. I wanted to talk about the Book of Battles that has really been released if you've been to certain events, but it's on pre-order for general distribution, and we have a lot of info on that, and I'm excited to talk about that, as well as a sneak peek at the news around the Age of Magic. I'm just going to sort of lightly touch that because that's just been sort of talked about, a new Saga universe for fantasy. And then also I just wanted to show a little bit of where I'm at in a Viking house that I've been 3D printing as well. Viking Longhouse. And so, I'll start with actually just what I'm starting here with for painting. So I have a Scots War Band, and I bought a Scots War Band, and it actually had a lot more in addition to the actual Scots box, like the actual box that it comes in. It was either a 4-point or a 6-point starter War Band box, but in looking through it, it actually has both a warlord, it has a special character for Macbeth, it has 3 units of Hearthguard and 3 units of warriors. And I also have a couple of individual blisters that I've bought to supplement with some special characters as well. Now what I have in front of you here that I'm actually working on are the 3 units of Hearthguard and the warlord. Now I have to say I'm really excited to paint these guys up. I actually like these miniatures a little bit more to paint than my Anglo-Danes that I had. I just like the sculpting on these, and there are a couple of doubles across these units, and despite, I believe that these were all Hearthguard, although this box, I don't know that you can buy exactly the same way that I had gotten today. I think you buy them in individual blisters from Gripping Beast, but a couple of these, like this guy here, I believe could easily just be used as a champion of some sort, because there are special characters in the Saga rules, and he comes with a sculpted, sword where he's drawing a sword as compared to just putting it in his hand, and he to me would be a good champion. So if I was only using 1 or 2 Hearthguard units or something, I could use these guys as champions along with warriors. Now this guy here I'm quite happy with, because he's sort of like a musician. He's blowing a horn, and a lot of folks, I was looking online to see how people utilize the miniature, and a lot of folks just would have him either just blowing the horn or just having a horn and a shield. In some cases people had like a pole behind the shield so he could be using a weapon. I elected to drill a hole into his hand and actually give him a sword, so he's sort of like got his shield there and he's just holding his sword for a moment as he blows his horn. And so I'm thinking with this character, he's pretty universal. I could use him as a Hearthguard, I could use him as some sort of musician, or some sort of special character, as well as a champion. I just see that, I could probably use him for a lot of different things, which would be really cool. It's a nice miniature. In general, there's just a lot of nice miniatures. And I don't know, there's something about this one and the way his pose is, and let's see if I can focus on him there, but I really like this guy in chainmail just holding a spear like this. He looks really cool, I think. It's very standard looking, but it's just kind of nice. And so I kind of mixed up, since they're Hearthguard, poles, swords, and axes. I sort of gave them everything. And my plans are that I am going to paint kilts on these guys, and so I'm going to use this as an opportunity to do some kilt painting. I do understand that depending on where you are in history, they didn't necessarily wear kilts, but I'm going to paint some kilts on them. And I have some Little Big Men Studios shield transfers, and I had a bit of a problem when I used their flag once, and Gerson, who I don't think has a YouTube channel anymore, but he put up a really nice video on how to do it, but there is some stuff online. I don't think his videos are up anymore. I think he closed his channel. But there is some stuff online. I have to be very careful when I use these Little Big Men Studios shield transfers, because I'm kind of a noob with them, and I messed up the first flag that I did. As well as I have another flag of for Scots by Little Big Men Studios, so I'm going to have to be careful with that. But they do look really cool, and so it'll be neat to try those on all the shields. I have enough for the entire army for shields. And yeah, so I'm really quite excited. I'll be working on these this week, and so now I'm definitely back into Dark Ages from fictional stuff. Now, I guess before I go into some of the news, I'll just show really quick here. I'm printing some pieces of the roof today, but I have this Viking House that I think has come out kind of nice as far as the detail. There's a little bit of imperfections on the front of dark coloring in spots because of some leakage I had that I had to work on with my nozzle. I don't think when painting it up you're going to see anything at all, and it's just in a couple of spots, so it's actually fine. But then when I've actually worked on the nozzle and fixed my technical issue, the rest of the print, it prints in 4 sections. So I just printed this one yesterday. You can see I have to glue this and then putty it, but there's actually 4 sections for this that I'll have to glue together to make the house. I have the roof to do, so I'm going to start that today. And yeah, so I'm kind of excited about that. There's another smaller house that I believe is a one-piece that is made by the same designer that I'm likely going to do as well, sort of a companion house. And speaking of terrain, the Book of Battles is actually now really close to it's on pre-order. It's really close to general release. There are people that have it, that have went to, I believe it's Crisis, and as an event. And I am really, really excited. So I saw a post, and I normally don't quote verbatim. I realize it's maybe kind of boring, but I was so excited to see some of the stuff that Studio Tomahawk released about this book. Now, I've been waiting for this book because the regular rulebook does not have any more than one scenario. Now, it's a sort of a broader scenario and has some variability, and I think it's a nice scenario for that reason. But it is sort of a generic, battle head-on-head scenario. And so there's, always been, even upon reading the book the first time, this desire for more. It does include rules on buildings and different kinds of terrain, like rivers and things like that, in the main rulebook. The main rulebook is a fairly streamlined book that really kind of, I guess, gives you a really good understanding of the basic system, of the mechanics of Saga, and what to expect in other universes and how the universe books are going to work and things like that. But the Book of Battles was always supposed to be something that actually added all of these other elements that you had in the first edition, but hopefully would have a lot more. And I'll tell you, based on what the information they released, they're releasing a lot more than what Saga had before. Not just in scenarios, but just in the goals of the Book of Battles. So I'm going to skip a lot of the stuff that was put on Facebook by Studio Tomahawk as to why they chose to release the Book of Battles and not put it in the original book, and some of that. If you were interested, you can go there and check it out. But I do want to just read verbatim from their post some of the things they talked about of the Book of Battles and how it's structured and what their goals are for it. And because if you're interested in Saga, I really think that this is literally, no pun intended, a game changer. It has the potential to be. It says the Book of Battles is divided into 4 chapters, each with a different approach. Some chapters introduce new special rules covering specific situations, such as terrain elements or components such as rivers, objective markers, reinforcements. All are based on a new victory point system divided into 3 parts: massacre points, survival points, and conquest points. Generally, each scenario uses only one of these systems, but at least one scenario in the book combines them all. There is this is me not speaking verbatim here now, but there is a system where they talk about victory points in the original rule set, or I should say the rule set, the core rule book. But this one is changing things up a bit from that one scenario that they have in the rule book. So continuing, the first part of the Book of Battles, the skirmishes, is actually a scenario generator. It offers an alternative to the Clash of Warlords, offering an infinitely higher number of variations. Thus, it proposes 6 different deployment methods, 6 ways to set up the scenery, 6 different game durations, 6 special rules, and 6 possible victory conditions. The scenarios themselves will be combination of one of these possibilities in each area. Thus, players will select one of 6 methods of setting up the field, one of 6 ways to deploy, etc. The possible combinations are counted in thousands, and while some combinations are quite similar, others are radically different. ensuring an almost infinite replayability of the game. It is also a tool available to tournament organizers who can use it to vary scenarios between rounds by offering participants a predetermined combination for each game. Skirmishes propose several different ways to select the components of their own scenario, from the total randomized method to a method where players can influence the different aspects of the scenario to try to find a situation that puts their gang to its advantage. So that's what they talk about with the scenario of the 4 methods to play, or the skirmishes, I should say. This is kind of exciting to me. When I hear scenario generator, I think of Musket and Tomahawks, because to me, that's one of the best things about Musket and Tomahawks, the original book, is the scenario generator, and I'm hoping that some of it will reflect that, since it's the same company, because I really think it's an awesome addition to the Musket and Tomahawks rule set. But this is really exciting to me. I think that's really, really cool. And I didn't expect that, to be honest. The second part is battles. So skirmishes is 1, battles is 2. Proposes significantly more complex scenarios, introducing new rules. It's the part of the book that proposes the most different scenarios, with 10 of them that will lead you to put your warband in the most atypical situations. Splicing your warband with a river, separating it in 2, capturing loot in enemy territory, protecting a notable person from the enemy, or ambushing a caravan. Many of these scenarios will require several games before they can be mastered, as they offer different situations from your classic Saga games, playing on aspects that the simple elimination of enemy troops does not highlight. Mobility, the ability to hold the ground, the hierarchy of priorities between combat and pursuit of objectives, etc. So just looking at the content of the book, the number of battles, like they mentioned 10, seems to be the highest number of predetermined content within the book. So that to me seems like it's the bulk of the book, even though the skirmishes probably has more combinations of elements and variety. This one's more like specific scenarios, probably closer to what we experienced in the first book of Saga with their, I believe it was 5 or 6 scenarios. Now the third part is called Legends. Legends offers 4 scenarios that are radically different from anything we have published so far. Real little stories with their share of surprises, uncontrollable events, and reversals of situations. Of course, all these factors make them scenarios that do not necessarily seek to be balanced, but rather focus on telling a story. Thus, you will have to chase after a herd of cattle that has gone mad, loot or defend a hamlet and its inhabitants, fight an urban uprising, or explore a hostile region. These scenarios introduce many new rules, random events, and exotic situations. We had a lot of fun playing them, and hopefully you will too. And if you're a competitive player, think of these games as a vacation. Lastly, the fourth part of the book is called Mass Battles, and it offers rules for multiplayer games, whether they are team games or everyone for himself and God for on my side. Everyone for himself and a God for on my side. 3 scenarios explore this rather delightful aspect of Saga and will offer you different ways to share a game with 3 or 4 players. And then, I said lastly to that, I guess the last chapter of the book is called Sagas, and it offers a small bonus that we thought it would be interesting to include. Proposes an experience system for your warlord. This is not strictly speaking a campaign system, but rather a way to track your progress of your heroic alter ego from game to game. He will earn experience points, which you can spend to acquire skills in different areas. We have even integrated a handicap system if you play a warlord, benefiting from the system against a warlord not taking advantage of it. And then they talk a little bit more about experience points as well. And so really a lot more than what I expected from the book when they've talked about Book of Battles. I really just expected something like they described in the battle section, like the 10 scenarios, just really kind of giving us what would be similar to the original Saga, the version 1. But what they've actually, it sounds like they've delivered on, not seen it yet, is an experience where you can do really interesting random skirmishes with lots of different possibilities, predetermined scenarios that are a little bit more structured within each scenario as to how you play each one. Then we have this Legends one, which sounds like it has a little bit more of either AI, or rules within each to dictate victory conditions or something. And then Mass Battles. which allows multiplayer. So I'm actually really quite excited. I was very psyched to see that. So I hope for those of you that are into Saga 2 and have not heard about this, you might be interested as well. So lastly, I'll just mention for today's update that they did also release this, I guess, sneak peek at the Age of Magic that's coming. So it's going to be another universe for fantasy for Saga. And I'll be quite honest, I've always primarily intended just to stay with Dark Ages because I'm still doing terrain for Dark Ages, and I'd much rather have a lot of terrain and a lot available for one universe of Saga than try to dabble and not really be happy with my tables as much for like all the universes. And I'd rather have like multiple armies within Dark Ages, so if I have friends that don't play Saga, they could try out an army and just have a lot more to be able to play in one setting if I have to choose. And I was intrigued by this idea of the Age of Magic and this idea of like fantasy within Saga, but I'm planning on doing other games that have to that are fantasy games, so it was never really something I was that interested in. But after seeing it, I'm actually thinking that it could be really interesting, because I'm not actually going to read verbatim their actual discussion on it, but it seems as if rather than being really specific on a miniature line that you have to buy, or even just in the type of miniatures that you're going to need, it seems as if they're shooting for a rule set that has generic types of factions that you could mix in your fantasy collections in and fit pretty easily. And that really appeals to me, since I'm going to be... I already have Orcs and Goblins and things, but I'm going to be painting up my Beastmen army next year. And so if I have really, the Book of Battles and, the main rule book, in addition to the Dark Age book, adding one book for fantasy, if I really like it and like the battle boards and the idea of using my miniatures in Saga for fantasy, it could be really a lot of fun. And so they released this idea of the Age of Magic and using the Saga-based system for fantasy, and it sounds like it's coming next year in 2019. So for those of you that either prefer that sort of setting and would be more willing to try Saga because it's got a fictional setting, or for those of you that just really enjoy Saga and like the idea of pulling your already existing fantasy armies out and just having different kinds of tables and things, and I suppose magic and some other rules that are conducive to fantasy, it looks like that's on its way. Okay, everybody. Just want to let everybody know that there will be a Musty Wargamers this week. It's going to be here on my channel, and it's going to be this Thursday. And so Rusty and I are getting into the groove, and we're going to be doing that. That is the normal time of 8 Central or 7 Mountain, 9 Eastern, whichever setting you are in, time zone. And I don't even know how the daylight saving time would affect everybody depending where you live, but it's still, because we just switched back last weekend, turned back an hour, but it will be 7 Mountain either way. And so hope everybody's doing well, and I will have an update pretty soon on my showcase for the Musty Wargamers Challenge, my Eldar. Okay, talk to you later, everybody.